Slick had the kind of charm that money couldn't buy, the type that made people listen when he spoke and envy him when he didn't. At 37, he had everything a man could want: power, wealth, influence. The city knew his name, whispered it with either admiration or resentment. His suits were tailored to perfection, his smile calculated to disarm. He ran his father-in-law's company as though it were his own empire, and perhaps, in his mind, it was. But behind the shine and self-assurance, there was something missing, a void he couldn't name. Success had become a routine, love a transaction, and home a place he merely slept in. Clarice, his wife, was beautiful, poised, and cold as marble. Their marriage was a performance, flawless in public, hollow in private. That was before Amira. She came into his world on a rainy Thursday evening. Slick had stopped at a small diner on the outskirts of the city to avoid traffic. The place smelled of coffee and wet pavement, and the ceiling fan creaked with every rotation. He had no reason to stay, until she spoke. "Coffee?" she asked, her tone light, unbothered. He looked up from his phone and met her eyes. She was simple, no expensive makeup, no fancy perfume, just warmth. A softness he hadn't realized he missed. "Sure," he replied, his voice casual, but something in him stirred. She poured his cup, offering a smile that wasn't forced or practiced. "You look like someone who hasn't had a good day." He chuckled, resting his chin on his hand. "You could say that." "Well," she said, setting the cup down, "lucky for you, we serve peace here, in ceramic cups." He smiled, genuinely for the first time in months. That was the beginning. He started returning every evening. At first, it was just for coffee, then for conversation. She told him about her dreams, her sketches, her love for design, her plans to open a small boutique one day. He told her about boardrooms and deals, pretending to be a man free from the weight of a failing marriage. He told her what she wanted to hear. She gave him what he didn't know he needed. It didn't take long before coffee turned into dinners, and dinners into weekends spent behind locked doors. He rented an apartment for her, a small space, hidden from the world, where he could breathe. To Amira, it was home. To Slick, it was escape. For months, they lived in their illusion. He'd bring her flowers, take her shopping, whisper promises he didn't plan to keep. Amira believed every word. She had no reason not to. Then one night, everything changed. She sat across from him in their apartment, her hands trembling as she held out a small plastic stick. "I'm pregnant," she said softly. Slick froze. His glass slipped slightly in his grip, but he caught it before it fell. "Amira," he began slowly, "you can't be serious." Tears welled in her eyes. "I am. I did the test twice. I thought you'd be happy." He looked away, exhaling hard. "This can't happen right now." "What do you mean it can't?" she asked, voice cracking. "You told me you wanted a future with me, that you were tired of pretending." "I said a lot of things," he interrupted, standing abruptly. "Things were different then. My wife's suspicious, the board's watching every move I make. If this gets out..." She stared at him in disbelief. "You're worried about your reputation?" "I'm trying to protect us," he lied. "No," she whispered. "You're trying to protect yourself." Slick rubbed his face, pacing. He couldn't think, couldn't breathe. The walls of the small apartment suddenly felt too tight. "I need time," he said finally. "I'll fix this. Just don't tell anyone." He left that night. Days passed and he didn't call. When she tried reaching him, her messages went unanswered. Then one afternoon, she returned to the apartment and found it half empty. His clothes were gone. His cologne, his watch, his smile, all erased. On the counter sat a thick envelope filled with cash. No note. No explanation. That was his goodbye. Amira stood in silence, her heartbeat loud in her ears. She looked around the apartment, their laughter still echoing faintly through the walls, and realized she had been nothing more than a distraction to him. Her knees buckled. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "You promised." Outside, the rain began to fall, as though the sky itself pitied her. She gathered her things, a few clothes, her sketchbook, the pregnancy test, and walked into the night. The city lights flickered in the puddles as thunder rolled above. She whispered through the storm, "You'll regret this, Slick." And perhaps, deep down, he already did. Because that night, Slick lay in his mansion beside a woman he couldn't love, staring at the ceiling. Clarice's perfume filled the air, expensive and suffocating. He turned to his side, but sleep refused to come. His phone buzzed. Not Amira, not anymore. Just work. Always work. He rose quietly, walked into his office, and poured himself a drink. The mirror across the room caught his reflection. The man who had everything, yet looked like he'd lost something priceless. He took a slow sip and muttered under his breath, "It's better this way." But the truth was simple, it wasn't. Because across the city, under a leaking roof, a woman sat with her hands over her stomach, whispering to the life growing inside her. "We'll be fine. I'll make you proud." And one day he'll see what he lost. The rain outside grew heavier, drowning out her tears. In that moment, two lives split into different paths. One built on guilt and silence, the other on strength and survival. And neither of them knew it yet, but their stories had only just begun. 3 months after he left Amira, Slick's life looked perfect on the surface. Sharper suits, bigger deals, and lavish parties that made the tabloids buzz with admiration. But beneath the gold veneer, cracks had begun to show. His company, once a symbol of stability, started bleeding quietly. The board was restless. Clarice's father, the old man whose approval had built Slick's empire, had grown suspicious of his decisions. Slick spent late nights in the office, fabricating reports, hiding losses, and pretending everything was under control. Pretending, something he was getting too good at. Yet even as he buried himself in numbers, her face haunted him. Amira. Her laughter, her eyes, the way she said his name like it meant something. He tried to drown the memories in whiskey and noise, but guilt had a way of seeping through the cracks of silence. One night, while reviewing financial documents, his assistant walked in. "Sir, there's someone here to see you." She didn't give her name. He frowned. "At this hour?" "Yes, sir." She said, "It's urgent." Slick sighed and nodded. "Send her in." The door opened slowly, and there she was. Amira. She looked nothing like the girl he left behind. The softness was gone. Her frame was thinner, her eyes darker. She carried a quiet strength, the kind that comes from surviving something that was supposed to break you. He stood up, words stuck in his throat. "Amira, what are you doing here?" "I came to return something," she said, placing a small brown envelope on his desk. He stared at it, unsure. "What's that?" "Money," she replied simply. "Your goodbye gift." Slick swallowed hard. "You didn't have to." "I did," she cut in, her voice calm but sharp. "I don't need your pity. Or your money. You took enough from me already." He looked away. "I never meant to hurt you." Amira gave a small, humorless laugh. "You didn't mean to, but you did. And I'm done letting it define me." For a moment, silence filled the room, the kind that said everything words couldn't. Then she added softly, "You'll see me again, Slick. Just not like this." Before he could respond, she turned and walked out. He watched her leave, an uneasy feeling settling in his chest. Something about her tone, her composure. It didn't sound like heartbreak. It sounded like a promise. 2 years later, that promise came true. The city buzzed with news of a rising fashion house. Amira and CO, elegant, fierce, and unapologetically bold. Her designs were everywhere, in magazines, on billboards, on red carpets. Investors called her a revolution. Slick saw her face on a magazine cover one morning, radiant, confident, everything she wasn't the last time he saw her. The headline read, "From struggle to stardom, the woman who built an empire alone." He stared at it for a long time, jaw tight, coffee untouched. Clarice walked in, picking up the magazine. "She's everywhere these days." Impressive, isn't it? Some people just know how to use opportunity. He said nothing, but deep down he knew Amira's success wasn't luck. It was rebirth. That same month, Slick's company took a fatal hit. A series of leaked emails exposed corruption, fake invoices, inflated contracts, offshore accounts. The board turned on him instantly. His father-in-law's fury was legendary. By the end of the quarter, Slick was out, stripped of position, assets frozen, his reputation hanging by a thread. The press feasted on his downfall. The golden boy who fell too fast. He stayed off social media, off the radar. The mansion felt emptier than ever. Clarice moved out within weeks. She didn't even argue, just left, her silence louder than any curse. He had nothing left but regret. One evening, sitting in a dim bar, he saw her again, not in person but on TV. Amira was at an award gala, dressed in a deep emerald gown, her belly round with pregnancy. She smiled at the cameras, grace in every movement. When asked who the father was, she simply said, "He's the reason I became this strong. So in a way, I'm thankful." The room erupted in applause. Slick watched in silence, his reflection in the bar mirror a stranger he barely recognized. He had destroyed everything. His company, his marriage, and the only woman who ever truly saw him. And now, the world celebrated the very woman he once tried to erase. He raised his glass, whispering to himself, "You won, Amira." But deep down, a darker voice whispered back, "She always was going to." Slick had hit rock bottom. Not the kind you crawl out of, but the kind that buries you. His name was poison in the business world. His friends had vanished like smoke. The mansion was gone, the cars repossessed, and his suits hung loose on a frame carved thin by sleepless nights and cheap whiskey. He lived now in a small, dim apartment on the city's edge, the same city he once ruled. Every night he stared at the skyline through dusty blinds, wondering how it had all slipped away. But fate, cruel as it was, wasn't done with him. One morning, a letter arrived. Not an email, a letter. Thick paper, gold seal. The kind of thing he used to send, back when his name still carried weight. It was an invitation. Amira and CO. Grand Gala, 7th anniversary celebration. He froze when he saw the name. Amira. He almost laughed. She had everything now, wealth, fame, a legacy. And yet she wanted him there? It made no sense. For 3 nights, he thought about it. Told himself he wouldn't go. Told himself it didn't matter. But something in him needed to see her, maybe for closure, maybe for punishment. So he went. The event was held at the Glass House, a glittering tower of light and marble, filled with people who used to whisper his name with respect, now pretending not to see him. He walked in, wearing the only decent suit he had left. Heads turned. Not out of admiration, but curiosity. The fallen king had come to watch his queen rise. Then he saw her. Amira. Dressed in white satin, elegant and effortless. Her hair framed her face like a crown, her eyes calm but unreadable. She wasn't the woman he left. She was something greater, sharper. When she spotted him, a faint smile touched her lips. The kind that said, "I knew you'd come." He approached, unsure what to say. "You look incredible." "Thank you," she replied softly. "You clean up well too. For someone who's been off the grid." He chuckled dryly. "Guess news travels fast." "Oh, it doesn't have to," she said. "The world never forgets the men who thought they were untouchable." Her tone was calm, but the sting landed. He deserved it. They stood there in silence as the crowd moved around them. Then she gestured toward the stage. "I want you to see something." Confused, he followed her to the front row. The lights dimmed, and a video began to play on the massive screen. It told her story, the struggles, the betrayal, the rise. Images flashed, a younger Amira sketching designs in a one-room flat, selling fabrics on the street, building from nothing. The crowd watched in awe. Then came a photo of her holding a baby boy, eyes like hers, but the jawline unmistakably his. The audience gasped. Slick's chest tightened. He didn't breathe. Amira turned to him. Her voice barely a whisper. "His name is Liam." He blinked, trying to form words, but she continued, steady and composed. "I didn't tell you because you didn't deserve to know then. You walked away when I needed you most. So I built a life without you. For him. For me." He swallowed hard, his voice breaking. "Amira, She raised a hand, stopping him. "Don't. You made your choices. And so did I." On the stage, the host called her name for a speech. The crowd cheered as she stepped forward. Slick stood frozen, heart pounding, shame heavy on his shoulders. Amira faced the audience, her voice clear and warm. When I started, people told me I couldn't make it without help, that I needed a man to build me. Tonight I stand here, not because someone gave me power, but because I took it back. Applause thundered through the hall. She looked at Slick, just for a second, and smiled. The message was clear. She didn't hate him. She had outgrown him. After the gala, he waited outside in the cool night air. When she finally walked out, he spoke softly. I don't want forgiveness. I just needed to say, I'm proud of you. Amira stopped, her heels clicking against the marble. You don't get to be proud, Slick. You get to remember. Then she turned to her car, her driver opening the door. He called out, Does he know about me? She paused. Not yet. Maybe one day. When I can tell him who you were, not just what you did. The car pulled away, leaving him standing in the glow of the streetlights. And for the first time, Slick didn't chase after what he lost. He simply stood there, letting it hurt, because maybe that was the only way to make peace with what he'd destroyed. Months passed. The city moved on, but Slick didn't. He spent his days drifting between cheap gigs, side hustles, and memories that refused to die. He traded penthouse windows for cracked glass, champagne for tap water, and Amira's laughter for silence. But something had changed in him. For once, he didn't crave the old life, the power, the money, the endless chase. He craved meaning, something real. He found it one afternoon when he stumbled upon a small community workshop near the docks. They were rebuilding a youth center that had burned down months ago. Slick offered to help, no plan, no motive. Just instinct. The man in charge, a wiry old mechanic named Jonah, gave him a skeptical look. You any good with tools? Slick shrugged. Used to be good with numbers. Tools can't be that different. Jonah chuckled. We'll see about that. That day turned into a week. The week turned into months. He fixed doors, painted walls, repaired wiring. The calluses on his hands replaced the scars of his ego. For the first time in years, he slept without dreams. Still, every night he thought about Liam. He wondered what his son looked like when he laughed, what kind of stories Amira told him before bed. He didn't expect forgiveness anymore, but he wanted the boy to grow up in a world where his father wasn't just a ghost. One rainy evening, while cleaning out the workshop, Jonah handed him a newspaper. You might want to see this. On the front page, Amira and CEO, expands global, opens new design institute for women. Below it, a photo, Amira cutting a ribbon, her hand resting on Liam's shoulder. Slick stared at the image for a long time, a strange warmth spreading through his chest. She'd done it. She'd built everything she dreamed of, and more. Jonah noticed his silence. You know her? Slick gave a small, tired smile. Yeah, I used to. Jonah nodded. Then maybe it's time you stop used to and start doing something about it. Weeks later, Slick walked through the courtyard of Amira's new institute. He wasn't sure what he planned to say, or if he should even be there. But fate has a strange way of arranging second chances. As he stood near the garden, a small voice spoke behind him. Are you Mr. Slick? He turned and froze. Liam. The resemblance was undeniable. The same sharp eyes, the same grin he used to flash in boardrooms. The boy couldn't have been more than 6, but he carried himself like someone who knew who he was. Yes, Slick said quietly. That's me. Liam smiled, holding out a small paper. Mom said you built this. Slick took it. It was a child's drawing of a tall building with stick figures underneath. At the top, written in clumsy handwriting, The Center for Hope, by Thumb and Timma. Slick. He looked at the boy, then at the drawing. His throat tightened. Did your mom tell you who I am? Liam nodded. She said you helped her once, and that you're trying to help people now. Slick couldn't speak. He just nodded, eyes stinging. Can I tell her you're here? Liam asked. He hesitated, then smiled faintly. No, not yet. Just tell her I'm proud of her. Okay. Liam grinned. Okay. The boy ran off toward the main building, calling for his mother. Slick stood there in the soft drizzle, the city lights blurring through the rain. He looked up at the sign above the gate, the Amira Foundation, for those who rise again. He exhaled, a small, honest smile tugging at his lips. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like a ghost haunting his past. He felt human again, flawed, forgiven by time if not by love. He turned and walked away, hands in his pockets, the sound of children's laughter echoing behind him. As he crossed the street, the sun broke through the clouds, warm, golden, and merciful. And maybe that was redemption after all. Not winning her back, but becoming the kind of man she could remember without pain. Because sometimes the real victory isn't getting what you lost. It's learning to live without it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.